ratio and proportion, section 7.1 in geometry. We are starting chapter 7 today. Not an overwhelmingly long chapter. We'll probably finish it up before the end of the semester and be able to take a test right before the end.
Will that be our final?
We will no, that will not be our final.
I hate that. Why do you want to take us to test it right before the end of break? I don't thank you so much because I will
Today we're going to talk about ratios. Yes, you have talked about ratios before. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers by division. Ratios can be written in various forms. For instance, there are three forms. You can use the word 2, you can use a colon, or you can write it as a fraction. And here are the examples for ratios comparing 3 and 2. Of those three ratios, which one do you see more often than the others?
3-2.
Typically, I say you see the fraction the most.
Yeah.
And then you see the other one. Typically, you don't see a lot of times the 2, 3, 2, 2. But you see the fraction the most. Slope. Slope is actually a ratio that compares the rise or change in y to the run or change in x. Okay, slope actually is a ratio comparing the rise to the run. All right. So when I look at this, I'm going to find the slope. I go up 2 over 4. 2 over 4, which is really 1/2. That is my slope, which is also a ratio comparing the rise to the run. The ratio of the angle measures in a triangle is 2, 3, 4. It says, what's the measure of the smallest angle? Well, it gives me the ratio is 2 to 3 to 4. That's really like saying 2x, 3x, and 4x. And because they are angle measures, I know they add up equal to 180. So that is almost identical to the problem that was on your warm-up. Okay. From there, you can solve. You get x equals 20, and then plug it in if need be. Anyways, at the bottom there, then again, 2 to 3 to 4, just add the variables 2x, 3x, 4x, add them up equal to 180. Plug it in for the smaller angle, and you get the smallest angle is 40 degrees. Not too bad. Okay. So let's look at number 1 here. I want to write a ratio expressing the slope of each line. Now again, slope, remember, is rise over run. So I'm going from A to B. I'm going to rise 2, run 6, 2 over 6, which simplifies to, that is my ratio comparing the rise to the run. What about number 2? I'm going from C to D. I'm going to rise 8. I'm going to run 2. So I get 8 over 2, which simplifies to 4 over 1. That is the ratio of the rise to the run. What about number 3? Number 3 is kind of tricky. Why? Because 3 is going down. Which, what's that mean about my slope? My slope is then going to be, so my rise is I'm falling 3, running 2. My slope is actually negative 3 over 2. Again, recognize negative slopes mean my line is going down. That is important to note. Try these 3. Take a couple seconds to try these 3. This one, ooh, don't want that. Yeah, this is actually the letter L. That's L right there. Okay, that's like cursive L. All right, number 4 here. What's the slope of N, Camden? Negative 5 over 2. Nice job. What about the slope of L, Bryce? And the slope of M, Tyler? Nice job. Those are slope, comparing the rise to the run. Those are ratios. Next part here. The ratio of the side lengths of a triangle is 2, 4, 5, and the perimeter is 55. What's the length of the shortest side? Instead of 2, 4, 5, I should say 2x plus 4x plus 5x. And then set that equal to 55. Do number 7 and 8 from there. Take a couple seconds to try those. Number 7, what's the length of the shortest side going to be, Drew? X is 5, but the shortest side is going to be what? 10. Number 8, the ratio of the angle measures in a triangle is 7x, 13x, and 16x. And I would then set those equal to what? 180. When you work it out, you get x comes out to be what, Nick?
80. No. 5.
X equals 5. The largest angle is what, Nick?
80.
80 degrees. Now, test question here. What type of triangle would that be? That would be an acute triangle, because the largest angle is 80 degrees, which means it's acute.
Mr. Daly?
An acute scaling triangle in the show.
Way to go, Ryan. You're a genius.
You chicken 36 or doesn't
You're like math
Yeah.
judge.
Doing what?
You can high five.
All right, next part here. We're going to talk about proportions. A proportion is an equation stating that two ratios are equal. In every proportion, the product of the extremes equals the product of the means. Now, we all do a pretty good job of proportions because we use cross products to solve. Now, if you don't want to use cross products, you could use fractions, as Mr. Weiss said. Okay. What he means here is, when you look at this proportion, you can see there are two fractions. Okay. For instance, you can think 8 times what is 56? 7. So what times 7 is 35? 5. Hey, that's another way to look at these problems. You do not have to use cross products if you can see equivalent fractions. It actually makes it a lot easier and a lot more mental work on it. Okay, so let's look at number 9 here. I want to solve each proportion. 9 over t equals 36 over 28. I can do cross products if I would like. For instance, cross products would take 9 times 28, 36 times t. That would get me like 36t equals 9 times 28 is 252. And then I would divide by 36, right?
Yeah.
And then I get, oh man, you get t equals 7. That's some hard work with some big numbers, right? Well, if I look at this, I can think of equivalent fractions.
And then t equals 7.
9 times what is 36? 4. So what times 4 is 28?
7.
7. Hey, look. That's a little bit easier using equivalent fractions. Okay, again, I can use cross products, but it's a lot easier. Same thing on 10. 16 times what is 32? 2. 15 times 2 is what?
30.
X equals 30.
Isn't that how everything goes? I don't know. That's
Pretty easy, right?
Yeah. That's what
Again,
I
you can't always use equivalent fractions, but when you can, it's a lot easier.
12, I don't use
Yeah. What about 11? 7 times what is 42? Oh, sorry.
4.
7 times 6. So 24 divided by 6 is
4.
y equals 4. What about 12? I can't use equivalent fractions here because there's multiple variables. So I have to use cross products. What's 2a times 3a? 6a.
Squared.
What's 8 times 3?
24.
And then I'd solve for a. Divide by 6. I get a squared equals 4. And then I have to take the
A would be 2.
square root. What undoes a square? Square root. Square root of 4 is 2 or negative 2. You actually get plus or minus 2 there. Because you're doing the square root in an equation, you need to include both the positive and the negative values. So it is plus or minus 2. Take a couple seconds to try these 3. Alright? Solve each of the proportions. Alright, number 13. What does A come out to be, Tom? A equals 5. Nice job, sir. On number 14, what's B come out to be, Frost? B equals 6. And 15, what's C come out to be, Gabe? C equals 10. There it is. Again, on those, you probably could use equivalent fractions for everyone. Here is your assignment.
You should give us